Meet Magnus Carlsen, the unrivaled chess genius. As the world champion, he's nearly unbeatable against top players. With breathtaking speed, he crushes opponents in moments, leaving them awestruck. I'm sure you didn't expect how fast he won these 5 matches. The last one shocks me the most. Magnus vs. Espen Agdestein. In this captivating chess encounter, Magnus Carlsen faced off against the formidable fight master Espen Agdestein. The game unfolded with Magnus commencing by moving his pawn to g3, met by Agdestein's response with d5. This maneuver initiated the king's fianchetto opening, setting the stage for an intriguing battle. Both players meticulously developed their initial pieces, positioning them strategically on the board. Sensing an opportunity, Magnus made a decisive strike, advancing his pawn to e4, seizing control of the center. The tension mounted as each move unfolded. After careful deliberation, both players castled, seeking safety for their kings. A sequence of pawn exchanges ensued, intensifying the positional struggle. Magnus, displaying an assertive style, played c4, exerting pressure on Agdestein, challenging him to capture the pawn. Agdestein grew restless, visibly tapping the table with a piece, revealing his impatience. Magnus, undeterred, continued to maneuver his pieces with precision. Bringing his knights into the game, Magnus positioned them menacingly, aligning them to target Agdestein's vulnerable king. As the mid-game unfolded, Magnus initiated a powerful assault. With a pawn moved to h6 and his queen entering the fray, he sought to exploit weaknesses in Agdestein's defense. Seizing the opportunity, Magnus capitalized on a grave error by Agdestein, capturing his knight and introducing his rook into the game. Magnus skillfully coordinated his pieces, directing his rook towards Agdestein's exposed king, while Agdestein's attempts to defend fell short. Magnus deftly executed tactical maneuvers, capturing pawns and orchestrating further piece exchanges. In a remarkable display of skill, Magnus delivered a forced checkmate, sealing his victory. The game lasted a mere 18 seconds, a testament to Magnus's exceptional speed and strategic prowess. Magnus Carlsen vs. Sergei Karyakin. In the next thrilling chess encounter, Magnus Carlsen faced off against Sergei Karyakin, a highly skilled super grandmaster. With both players having 3 minutes on their clocks, Magnus fearlessly initiated the game with pawn to e4, met by Sergei's quick response with e5. The opening moves transitioned into the famous Roy Lopez opening, where Magnus expertly traded a knight and a bishop. Magnus capitalized on the opportunity to develop his knight while Sergei opted to castle. Calculating his moves, Magnus launched a relentless assault, targeting Sergei's vulnerable knight. Sergei retaliated, but Magnus skillfully retreated his piece, forcing Sergei into deep thought for his next move. Then Sergei made a fateful blunder, withdrawing his bishop instead of capturing Magnus's bishop, signaling the beginning of his downfall. Magnus seized the advantage, advancing his pieces towards Sergei's exposed king. Sergei moved his knight to e6, unknowingly presenting Magnus with an opportunity. Magnus swiftly captured an open file, planning a direct assault on Sergei's king. The exchange of knights and bishops followed, with Magnus orchestrating tactical maneuvers to trade rooks. Magnus then introduced his queen into the fray, eliciting a retaliatory strike from Sergei. Unfazed, Magnus executed a stunning check, winning a pawn and securing a decisive advantage. Magnus pressed on, threatening checkmate with a strategic pawn movement to f6 and his queen poised to strike on g7. Realizing defeat was inevitable, Sergei conceded the match, extending his hand in resignation. Magnus emerged triumphant, having meticulously orchestrated his moves throughout the game. Magnus vs. Bill Gates. In the next chess match, Magnus Carlsen defeated Bill Gates using only 12 seconds on the clock. Bill Gates, playing with the white pieces, confidently started the game with the move e4. Magnus responded by moving his knight to c6, to which Gates advanced his knight to f3. Taking an aggressive approach, Magnus quickly played d5, pressuring Gates to decide between capturing the pawn or defending it with his bishop. Gates chose to defend the pawn with his bishop, but Magnus remained determined, moving his knight to f6 and increasing the pressure on Gates' pawn. After some exchanges, the position reached a standstill, allowing Magnus to bring his queen into play. Magnus's pieces gained activity, while Gates' pieces seemed less dynamic. Gates attempted to attack Magnus's queen, but Magnus skillfully moved it out of harm's way. Gates appeared unsure of his next move, and in this critical position, he decided to castle, which turned out to be a crucial mistake. With Magnus's pieces strategically surrounding Gates' king, Magnus capitalized on this opportunity, playing bishop to g3, placing a double pin on Gates' queen and posing serious threats. Magnus then quickly activated his knight, sacrificing the seemingly free bishop as he had planned. Gates thought his position was secure, but he didn't realize he was already in a lost position. Magnus seized the moment and, with precise execution, captured Gates' knight, leading Gates into Magnus's trap. In a brilliant final move, Magnus delivered a checkmate with his queen on h2, securing a swift and decisive victory. He managed to defeat the world's richest man in only 9 moves, using less than 12 seconds of his time. Magnus versus Lars Monsen. In the next match, Magnus achieves a remarkable feat in his next game against the renowned explorer Lars Monsen, who is also a skilled chess player. In this intense match, Magnus, with only a few seconds left on his clock, manages to showcase his prowess. He starts the game by moving his pawn to e4, prompting Monsen to respond with a Sicilian defense by moving his pawn to c5. As the game progresses, Magnus launches an aggressive attack, employing strategic moves with his knight to threaten Monsen's pieces and force him into a difficult situation. Despite Monsen's attempts to counter, Magnus skillfully pushes his pawns forward, creating a substantial attack on Monsen's king. Monsen spends considerable time contemplating his moves before retreating his knight, allowing Magnus to further advance his pieces. After exchanging knights and pawns, Magnus puts Monsen's king in a precarious position. Then Monsen makes a critical error by moving his queen to f7, leading to a decisive blunder. At this moment, Monsen also mismanages his clock, wasting valuable seconds on Magnus's remaining time. Sensing victory, Magnus closes in on Monsen's king, eventually promoting a pawn to a queen and checkmating Monsen as he runs out of time on the clock. The match concludes with a handshake, and Monsen acknowledges Magnus's brilliant play, having been outplayed in a matter of seconds. Magnus versus Anna Kramling. The game starts quickly with Magnus playing pawn to d4, a common opening. Anna blocks Magnus from advancing his second pawn with her knight. Both players develop more pieces, turning the game into a Catalan opening, focusing on long-term positional pressure. Anna checks Magnus with her bishop, and he blocks the check with his knight, resulting in a pinned knight. Anna captures a pawn on c4. Magnus defends his attack square with his dark-squared bishop. Both players castle, bringing their kings to safety. Magnus threatens Anna's knight with pawn to e4. Anna trades knights on c3. Magnus recaptures with his pawn, forcing Anna's bishop to retreat. Anna moves her pawn to e5. Magnus defends the square with his bishop. Anna activates her light-squared bishop, threatening Magnus's knight and the rook. Magnus plays knight to b7, escaping Anna's attack and threatening to take her rook. Both players trade pawns. Magnus pushes Anna's bishop back, losing a tempo. Magnus starts coaching Anna during the game. Anna plays rook to a8. Magnus was looking for knight to d5, winning a pawn and forking 2 of Anna's pieces. Anna moves her knight to Magnus's backline, threatening his rook, and Magnus takes the trade and threatens Anna's knight. Anna moves her rook to stop Magnus from capturing. Magnus plays bishop to h5, creating a line where Anna's king has no escape. The game is done. Let me know which match surprised you the most.